Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Town of Holliston Zoning Board of Appeals for Wednesday, May 6th. And thank you all for joining us. A couple of housekeeping items. First, I want to read into the record the statement that we're required to do with this type of meeting. Pursuant to the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, MGL Chapter 30A, paragraph 20, as well as the Select Board's emergency order dated March 16, 2020, the Zoning Board of Appeals will be using remote participation for this meeting. The audio of this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the town's webpage within 24 hours in accordance with the governor's emergency action requirement of keeping the public informed of actions during this meeting. I would ask that all participants remotely attending this meeting, please state your name for identification purposes each time you speak throughout the meeting. At this time, a roll call attendance vote will be taken. John Love, present. Jay Peabody.
Aye.
Mark Bush.
Present. Liz
Dembitzer.
Present.
Thank you, everybody's here. Also for those on the call meeting, what we found, we're consider ourselves veterans at this now because this is our third online meeting. So hopefully we've done most of our stumbles. We probably find some new ones, but what we have found is pretty helpful is if you would like to be recognized or just want to ask a question, if you could use the chat function, we found that that's worked very well. I mean, I will certainly recognize you and ask you to turn your microphone on at the appropriate time, but we found in our first couple meetings that that's worked well in terms of being both orderly and timely in terms of getting stuff. So the other thing is that I apologize that this will be a little more cumbersome, but all of our votes and things that we do will be by roll call by necessity of the nature of this meeting. So it may take a little longer than it usually does, but we'll try and keep things moving right along. So the first order of business on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of April 22nd, 2020. Anybody on the board wish to comment on those or amend or?
So this is Jay. So Karen mentioned it, and she's correct. So in two sections, we need to make a small change and one section change. So for the relief for 36 Cranberry Lane, so the first change would be on page 2. At the very, very bottom where it starts the request for relief, it should be a special permit by Gregory and Eileen Ferrick at 36 Cranberry Lane. And then everything's okay until the deliberations. So if you continue on to where we deliberate on that permit request, it's under section 3. That should be a special permit again for 36 Cranberry Lane. And then where we have the findings of fact, there's an improper section reference. So the variance, I guess it's in the third sentence down. It actually starts on the second sentence where it talks about the relief being pursuant to section 6D3, variances of the town of Holliston. That should be 6. D2, which is the special permit section of the bylaw. Aside from that, everything else was okay.
Thank you, Jay. Any other comments on the minutes?
None from me, Mr. Chairman.
No.
Okay.
So I guess I would make the motion then that we approve the minutes from the April 22nd Zoning Board of Appeals meeting as I just noted, with the changes to the permit request at Cranberry Lane.
It's Mark. I'll second that.
A motion's been moved and seconded. Or any further discussion? Seeing none, I move to vote. We'll use a roll call. John? Aye. Jay?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Second order of business is a budget revised request. Karen, maybe you could remind us. We've been asked to reduce the budget, given the thing by, was it 1% further, or I can't remember.
They would like to do a level funded request. So essentially what they've asked us to do is roll back the COLA on the folks that are subject to COLA, then potentially cut further from there. So what we've done is Diane and I have budgeted 10. It's easy enough to just cut out a few hours, roll back her COLA. My salary is not subject to COLA this year because of the contracts that we're in. So it's easy enough to I'm not sure what the actual number is, but what they would like to do is just start there and see how far it gets them in terms of adjusting for this is for fiscal 21 that starts July 1st.
Okay. I think that works well for us because the rest of stuff, if we level fund, we should be just fine, I think. Any concerns or issues?
None from me.
Yeah, I don't think so. Okay.
None for me either.
So if they can, we're amenable to that. If they can present it, we'll accept that.
So what I would do is send a message to the selectmen. They do need to do that review, and then they'll send that along to the finance committee.
Okay, I will take care of that. Great. Okay, so now we'll move into our first hearing, which is a continued hearing for Marshall Street Solar at 39 Marshall Street. It's been quite a while since we've had a chance to talk, so maybe I would ask the proponents to give us an update on where they've come since we were last there.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, this is Steve Weir with Weston and Sampson Engineers on behalf of Marshall Street Solar, and I'm assuming that you can hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Okay, great. So just to bring you up to date, we have been back before both the planning boards and the Conservation Commission, and most recently the Conservation Commission just yesterday evening, where just administratively the board moved to allow the chairman to sign what was described as a fairly standard order of conditions to allow the work that's been proposed. And there have been certainly some twists and turns in terms of the site plan and the work, which started again with applications before 3 different boards and commissions within the town of Holliston. It's gone through peer review, and we believe that we have a site plan that is amenable to the other 2 bodies that have jurisdiction here. And there have been a series of updates and plan revisions that have accompanied those. I'm happy to go through them by date if you'd like, but I think that they've resulted in what we believe to be a pretty well-conceived plan that takes into consideration all of the town's bylaws and all of the abutters' requests and review of this project in terms of site screening, some changes that have been made to accommodate some requests to remove some solar panels, to move the access road, and everything down to including what I think is a pretty complete list of conditions that Karen had circulated and that we've had a chance to review before this meeting and had some comments that were returned back by Joe Harrison of Marshall Street Solar. And there are only a few comments that we had just to get some details and some clarity on those. And I'm happy to bring up any particular point. But I think that where we've left it is that the Zoning Board of Appeals would be the author of these conditions, because we've asked for a use variance for use of a large scale solar in a residential agricultural district. But then taking into consideration all of the other comments from the other boards to be embodied in this decision that is a 6-page order of conditions that we've read. If that's helpful, I'm happy to give color commentary if you need it.
Yeah, I guess maybe because we do have, I recognize some of the abutters on hand, and it has been a while both for the board and them. If you wouldn't mind just summarizing, and I don't think you need to go into great detail because we were all privy to the conversation around them, but the changes that have been made to the plan would probably be useful, at least by reference. So that
Sure, I'm happy to do that, Mr. Chairman. Again, Steve Weah with Weston and Sampson on behalf of Marshall Street Solar. So the first set of plans that were filed, they were subject to a peer review by CMG and David Face. And that peer review letter was issued on March 3rd. There were 41 comments, and a lot of them had to deal with stormwater issues and compliance with the Massachusetts stormwater plan. And so the Weston and Sampson, together with the applicant, put together what we call the peer review response letter number 1, and it was submitted on April 6th. And that letter was reviewed, and it winnowed down the 41 comments to 8 comments that were left that still needed to be further addressed. And these were things such as the design of the sediment forebays and having consistency between the written description and narrative in the stormwater report and the plans themselves. And so the peer review response letter number 2, letter and plan revisions and stormwater report were filed on April 16th. And then we received an email back from CMG on the 21st that said that they're all set, that the last submittal had taken into consideration all of their comments. Between the time that we filed that, the applicant had a discussion with the northern adjacent property owner, the Webbs, and that they had seen and heard of the landscaping plans that were afforded to some of the other neighbors. And one of their last requests, as I understand it, was to remove 40 panels that totaled about 16 kilowatts of DC power that were closest to their backyard swimming pool, if I got it correctly. And so because there were some stormwater features there, I think the applicant conceded. And so we just submitted a plan dated April 29th that was stamped by the engineer that has a note number 5 that simply removes those panels per this abutter's request. And then largely all of the other plan revisions, again, had to do with information that was relayed during the site walks. Marshall Street as a scenic roadway, it was determined that a buffer of a vegetated berm in the way of grass should be extended from the Strock property north to obscure the view of it. So like an earthen berm that's 6 feet tall, that when you drive by, you wouldn't see the solar array, excepting the entrance that would be there. We've extended landscaping from the Strocks, the Canavans, the Tomasettis, the Santos. We've relocated one of the, or I shouldn't say relocated, we added a 5th detention basin, and we reoriented the overflow discharge pipe from the southeastern corner of the property, which was a topographic low spot that had a discharge pipe that basically pointed at the Santos property. And so through some engineering, we made that basin a little bit bigger, and we had the discharge pipe going to the northwest towards the 13 acres of the largest, the wetlands that's on the site. And so the notice of intent by necessity included a little bit of a riprap apron at the discharge pipe for that basin and one other one. And so between the landscaping, the changes that the access road to go around some boulders that were present back there, that some of the neighbors felt that if those tried to come out, we might have to use some blasting or something. And so it was agreed to simply go around the rock and leave it where it was. And I think that captures most of the changes that have transpired. Largely, the project hasn't changed much in terms of it's a 4.99 megawatt AC with battery storage project, and it's largely within a fenced area and dimensionally set back to comply with all of the town setback issues. And then again, taking into consideration all the different comments that we've had, since the beginning of the year till now.
Okay, terrific. One other quick question, if you wouldn't mind running through. I saw late this afternoon some comments from the planning board's letter and your comments to them, which struck me as very reasonable and memorable. But if you wouldn't mind just summarizing the areas
Sure.
that you responded to, just so that in case the board members hadn't had a chance to read that yet.
Okay, sure. So in the project description and findings, in the first paragraph, there was a reference to doing the site cleanup work subject to DEP approval. And we just wanted to point out that approval is really a self-governing process under the MCP, where the work is done under a licensed site professional. And clearly there is DEP involvement, but when it comes to getting an actual approval letter from the DEP, we don't always get that. And so that language wanted to be cleaned up, largely just to make sure that it's consistent with expectations, that we weren't waiting for something that was never going to come. And this is also helpful to the applicant when they go to apply for financing, that all of their ducks are in a row. They have all of the permits and approvals that they are required to have, but we don't want to say that there's something that they're supposed to have that they'll never get. The second comment just had to do with making sure that this application acknowledges that we were seeking a use variance, because again, this is a large scale solar PV array that ordinarily is not listed as an approved use in an agricultural residential zoning district. And so we have asked by application to make sure that that's clear and enunciated in that second paragraph. The suggested conditions of ZBA use variance approval. Number one is just to clarify, there was some discussion with the planning board about working outside of normal business hours of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And this is unless approved by the building inspector. And we had talked about if we get behind schedule or needed to do some catch-up work. We don't anticipate it because there's been a 6-month extension granted to all applicants of projects under the SMART program. But if something unforeseen came up due to weather delays or something, that we would seek approval to work outside of those hours, and it might be a Saturday or something when crews like to get work caught up. So then the next one is item number 12 on page 2. There was no site lighting except for a motion sensor light at the equipment pad area. And again, this is a light that would ordinarily be programmed to be off, and it wouldn't be illuminated unless it was tripped because of a motion, and that motion would theoretically be someone that would be working to make some repairs to some of the equipment that's there, but it would certainly be off most, if not all of the time. Number 13 said no earth removal is authorized under this permit. No earth products are to be removed from the site unless in conformance with the recommendations of the LSP pursuant to the MCP. And again, we want to emphasize that this project, we don't intend to do, there's no mining, there's no excessive materials. that will come off, but there is earth moving within the interior of the property, and there may be some things that have to come off in the way of the trees. When the clearing gets done, there'll be a logger, there'll be a contract with a clearing outfit that will take those off and use it. If it's furniture grade or cord grade wood and down to the chippings that they'll leave on site to do some of the erosion and sediment control. They might have to augment some of the plantings also with some topsoil and loam to make sure that that vegetation that is going to be planted is successful. And number 14, there was a provision here that talked about the applicant and performance of its conditions when they discontinue use, that says disposal of all solid and hazardous waste. And we just wanted to clarify that this would be all solid and hazardous waste that's generated by the construction activities of the solar array. And that when the solar project is decommissioned in 25 or 30 years from now, or that it's not intended to stipulate that the developer is going to come back and all of a sudden start removing the buried solid waste that was there before they started their work on the project site. Execution of an interconnection service agreement and an operations plan provided. It says inspector of buildings and fire department if available for reference, along with final system plans. That's ordinary and customary that the developer would meet with these departments and go over the O&M plan and how to respond to an emergency or a fire, and what to do and not to do safely when they do that. The applicant in number 16 has asked, they're certainly willing to pay reasonable fees for the board's legal counsel and review, but we're asking if we could cap that, and we've suggested a dollar amount of $3,000. The next 2 pages, 3 pages, I don't think we had any comments, and then just the last one. I think that when we read this, the disturbed area shall be temporarily stabilized by hydroseeding. It says if construction of a replacement pipeline is not commenced. And I think that might have been a standard condition that was maybe remnant of another project. But we see the value of it. We just want to make sure that there's not an unreasonable time burden placed on the contractor, because when the tree clearing happens, there's going to be certainly more than 14 days before the racking contractor gets in and does his work. And then the panel installation contractors get in and do their work. But certainly the site will be managed from a stormwater perspective and phased. There's a phasing plan that certainly will be developed and filed to make sure that those don't result in any illicit discharges of erosion and sediment, particularly into the wetlands and the resource areas. And then the last one, it says no fertilizers, pesticides, or herbicides shall be used during the construction, operation, and maintenance of the project. We wanted to change that unless it's authorized by the landscape architect or the board, in that there is a significant investment. If you look at the landscape plans for the just the screening buffers alone, these are probably thousands of plants that will require probably at least some fertilizer. And even the plans that we have filed want to make sure that the grasses, that when they are planted, that they're fertilized correctly. You know, they won't be over fertilized, but we want to make sure that that's successful, only because we've seen too many projects where they've hydroseeded or planted things and they have failed later just for that little bit of lack of maintenance and care that's required to make sure that they thrive and survive and do what everyone hopes that they will do. And that's the last of the comments, I think, to that 6-page letter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Police. So does the board have further questions of the applicant regarding this? I know it's been a while since you guys spoke, but I think you did a very nice job of summarizing what's happened since then.
Nothing further from me.
Liz or Jay?
I had a question. Well, just in terms of your comments regarding, I think it's number 19, no pesticides or herbicides shall be used. That one, where you at, but you want to have the ability to use fertilizer for the landscaping. So the language could stay, right, and say, somehow just, it doesn't mean pesticides or herbicides will be used. The fertilizer is something separate, correct?
That's right, right.
Okay, so we could add language saying fertilizer should be used at the discretion of the landscape architect.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's fine to amend it that way. We just want to make sure that it's clear that at least fertilizer will be used, but I don't think pesticides or herbicides, at least not at this stage.
I don't have any questions about where we've been. I guess the only question I'll have is more administrative. Once we start to talk about the planning board's comments, the return comments, and then I guess to Karen, I know that town council has been involved at the planning board level. So is he part of this conversation tonight?
He is not part of this conversation this evening, but I certainly would recommend that any draft go through him.
Okay. Any draft on any decision?
Right.
Okay. All right. I'll just put a bookmark at that spot, and then I'll listen to townsfolks.
Okay, well, I think if the board has exhausted their thoughts, I would open up is there anyone in the audience that has further questions? I know you've had several opportunities to meet with the applicants, but this is probably the first time seeing the final take on things. So this opportunity, if there's further questions of the applicants.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Jason Santos, 183 Marshall Street. How are you?
Good, thanks, Mr. Santos. Please.
Good.
Ask away.
No questions. I'm just pleased to report that things have significantly changed since the very first iteration of the plan. And as Steve points out, the first iteration had the outflow from the stormwater basin, headed towards our property, and it was something that was a bit scary to us after spending so much and trying to fix a wet basement. So we're thrilled that they have been very accommodating. After speaking with many of the neighbors, they're thrilled as well with the screening program and design and everything. And so I would just offer our support for the project.
Well, thank you. Because we did take a walk with them and saw exactly what your concern was, and I think there's a whole lot better solution that they've gotten to. So appreciate your
Thank you.
Your involvement and the cooperation that's been shown. So further questions. So I guess it's an opportunity. Is there anybody else beyond Mr. Santos that would like to be heard in support of this project? Okay, seeing, oops.
Hey, John, this is Bill Tomasetti, 141 Marshall Street. How are you?
Good, Bill.
Yeah, we, as neighbors here, we're just very excited about the care and concern that this company has, as far as the details, answering questions that we have as far as the landscaping and all that. So we are very much in support of that. They've walked the site and have rerouted the service road around this big boulder that we had in our backyard, which is a big plus. So I think that's going to work out for everyone also. I had emailed a couple of questions over to Karen to see if maybe we can put in the writing some irrigation lines to take care of some of the landscaping that we have out here. For the most part, the soil is pretty gravelly, and 300 feet of plantings would take a long time to water by a hose. So in talking to Joe Harrison, he agreed with that. And I also mentioned possibly some sort of warranty issue for the landscaping, that they last, say, a year or so after the finality of the project. So I'm not sure if that can be written in somehow, John.
Thank you. Good thoughts. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard in support of the project? Is there anyone that wishes to be heard in opposition to the project? All right, well, I would like, on behalf of the board and to a broader extent on behalf of the town, to thank both all neighbors who worked as cooperatively and diligently as they did with the applicant and with the applicant for the, it's as attested to by the last two people that spoke, their cooperation and concern with those issues. And I think I can speak for everybody to say you guys really did a nice job of coming to what we think will be a good solution to this, and one that in the long run, I think everybody's going to be relatively happy with. So we'll work that, but thank you, appreciate it. Karen, as a technical question, if we're going to send anything to the town council, do we need to keep this hearing open, or to take any advice prior to doing that, or can we close it? And because I'm thinking we may draft a decision, but it might take a couple go-arounds.
I just think it's your level of comfort. I don't expect it would, alter what your general decision framework is. I think he would just sort of offer some language.
Yeah, and likewise, if there's any with the other boards, that if there's any detail that needs to confirm or change. Again, I agree with you. I think we're a pretty good idea of where we want to be. It'll be the details themselves, and I can do it either way.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. So we've received the petitioner's comments to some of the findings by the planning board. I think we've closed the loop on those comments.
Yeah.
So the only, I think, reason to keep the public portion of the hearing open would be for us to draft the decision with conditions and then give the petitioner a chance to comment on those, which I think the only time we've ever done that that I can think of is with a comprehensive permit.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
but in a sense, this is a comprehensive permit in the role we're playing with it. That's kind of why I was a little concerned. I think also we may want the planning board or the conservation commission to just take one last pass, but I don't know whether we need to stay open for that.
Well, I think if we're going to be on the clock, we might want to keep it open so that we have the time we need to manage the comments. Otherwise, we'd have to render our decision. What's the time period, Karen?
Oh, I think we're past the 100 days.
Oh, that's true. That's right. We've been at this a long, long time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let me ask this. So of the petitioner, I mean, is it something that you want to have the ability to comment on conditions related to a decision, or are you comfortable with us closing it with the information we have, and assuming we render a favorable decision with conditions? Are you comfortable with the input you've provided so far, and then utilizing our discretion in our town council, and then obviously planning board to the extent they want to comment as well.
Thanks. This is Joe Harrison from Sunrays. And Steve, if you have an opinion, feel free to follow on to this. But just a question for Karen. I mean, the conditions so far that we've seen have been very reasonable, and I would say standard. Are you envisioning sort of a similar structure and a lot of new conditions that already hadn't been sort of thought about? Just trying to get a bit of a flavor for, how many more additional comments you're thinking about.
So you directed it to Karen, although I think from our board's perspective, I don't want to speak for Karen or the board per se, but I don't think we're going to be introducing more onerous conditions. I think they're more administrative in nature than anything.
I would have the same comment. That's my concern, was only the specifics of those conditions that have been negotiated or been suggested by other boards that, we just ensure that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. I also don't see anything significantly different than what's been proposed and commented on.
All right, Mr. Chairman, Steve Weah again with Weston and Sampson on behalf of Marshall Street. I agree also, and I think to the extent that the irrigation lines, I have been privy to the email dialogue, and if those wanted to be incorporated into this 6-page finding, I think that this is consistent with the feedback from the planning board, and I'm always one to ask to try and move it along and try and close the hearing and take a vote on the application, mostly in the interest of the client, because of the time that's involved. They need to get your approval before they can move to the next step, and they're eager to do that.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess having heard that, I have no reluctance to closing the
Nor do
public
I.
portion, and then we can manage the.
Liz and Mark, do you have any concerns about it?
No.
Okay.
This is Liz.
In that case, we'll ask for a motion to close the public portion of the
Alright.
hearing.
So I'll make a motion that we close the public portion of the request for a granted use variance at, by Marshall Street Solar LLC for the property located at 0 Marshall Street, Holliston, Massachusetts.
This is Mark. I'll second that.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none,
No.
we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of closing the public portion of the hearing for the solar at Marshall Street Solar project, respond with aye. John, aye. Jay,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
Motion carries, so it's closed. Again, thank you for all of your diligence in putting this together, answering our questions and our citizens' questions. We would anticipate to deliberate and start to draft a decision tonight. Whether or not we'll finish it, I don't know, but we'll do it in all due haste. I know you've been at this for a while, and I think nobody anticipated some circumstances that continued to do this, but thank you once again, and good luck with things.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board and the residents that have been helpful along the way. We certainly express our appreciation, and we appreciate that you're even taking the time and effort to move applications like this along during what is considered a pretty challenging time. Some other towns are deferring and simply continuing their hearings, and so we find that tremendously helpful just to keep things going, and we appreciate that.
Now we've got to have something to do, right? Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You're welcome. Have a good night. Move on. Their next agenda item is the continued public hearing at 799 Washington Street for a special permit, the Gulf Station. Is the applicant here to present? We've had this open, but we've never really started the hearing. So I'd love to just start from the beginning if that's possible.
I think our applicant's muted. Maybe not. Karen, didn't you mention that you weren't sure if this was going to be heard tonight?
Yeah, I thought you said that in an email.
I did, and later on in the day, I did get an email that they were going to be present. I do not see him on this screen at the moment, though.
Do you want to take it out of order, John, and then go back?
Yeah, I think we can do that. Before we continue it, we'll just sort of. Karen, I do actually have one question on this. We did get a memorandum from the selectmen with some suggestions, one of which involved doing a traffic engineer review of the design. And I don't think we've done anything about that I'm aware of. Do you know if the selectmen haven't either, have they?
Now, the applicant received that memo, and they did have someone make an inquiry about the materials that were available on the improvements that have been made with the signalization. Did not get a response after that initial inquiry. So I don't know if someone was trying to scope out a study or what the answer from the applicant was with regard to that memo.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move to the next item, and if the applicant does join the meeting, we can follow it with that, and if not, we'll continue and try and find out what the status is. So our next hit being after 7:05, we'll open the application for a special permit at 1078 Highland Street for Amber and Devin Ream. I thought I saw Amber. That's you, I take it. How do you do? Yeah, if we could unmute Amber and ask you to give us a little run through of what you'd like to do with your addition and see what we can do for you.
Sure. Hopefully you, you have it there. So for our project,
excuse me, would you mind just stating your name and address for the record?
Oh, of course. This is Amber Ream, and I'm at 1078 Highland Street.
Thank you.
So for the project that we're hoping to do right now, we live in a non-conforming structure as it is. So our house is built in 1775, so it predates the setback. So right now, as you can see, a lot of our house is already outside the setback. And part of our second story projects out from our first floor. And so what we're hoping to do with our project is to have our first floor to kind of meet that that second floor. So that's where in the plot plan, you can kind of see the existing dwelling and then the proposed. It kind of is very close to each other because that's sort of what's happening here is we're trying to extend that first story to meet that. And that first story is our kitchen. And so the wall of our kitchen, we're hoping to bring out to the wall of where our second story ends. And our kitchen just happens to extend a little bit towards Highland Street. So that's the little piece of the floor plan that you can see kind of adjusting in that floor plan. And then in this project as well, we have right now off of that side of our house, we have a deck that's off that part of our house. We're going to kind of rebuild that deck in almost the same floor plan that is right now, except that there will be new steps that kind of extend. So the extension off of the original floor plan is just where the steps will now go down. So, and those also are kind of outside that setback line. However, as I said, since our house is kind of already in that area, we don't see it as making our setback problems worse as it is. So we're hoping to be approved to move forward with their project.
Okay, so just the steps are to the north of the, yeah, actually the proposed, I see it. So those sort of dark sections on the larger portion of the plan of the steps that you're speaking of, I get you.
Yeah, so the original steps that are there now are kind of the lighter ones that kind of run the whole length, and then we would be changing it to those darker ones that kind of jut out.
I see. So you go a little further. And the setback issue is to Highland Street, so. All right, in terms of the actual addition, do you have any type of plans available, or have you not gotten that far yet?
We do. We actually have architectural plans that have been drawn up and by an architect and ready to be executed and stamped and everything.
Okay, and the nature of them, I presume, but I'll ask, so I'm not presuming too much, that the materials and the architecture are to match the rest of the house.
Yeah, and actually we hope to, part of our goal of this project is to actually make the house almost more in line with its age.
Yeah.
So we actually think that it will look almost more authentic to our 1775 kind of original of the house.
Would it be a problem if we asked you to provide a set of those plans to just the file for this?
I could do that.
Okay. I mean, usually we would reference the plans, so that way, when you go to build it, the building inspector knows it's what we said was okay. Okay, thank you. I think
Chris has seen those, so
good.
Yeah,
and that should make it easy. Questions from the board?
No, I actually, I'm on Google Street View, and you can see clearly what the Reams are trying to accomplish. So no questions from me.
I don't have any questions. Just a clarification. So we have to provide relief for both from Prospect and Highland, right?
I think it's just Highland.
Yeah, I think it's because there's
the house is up against Prospect, and they're on the opposite side.
To Prospect, but no work over there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're just looking at the relative to Highland. Okay.
Right.
That's right. Because
it's less.
Well, they're furthering the non
house.
Karen, do we have to do both sides, or no?
It is non-conforming on both sides, but it's only, the massing is only changing on one.
Okay.
I think typically we don't. We could show in the finding of fact that it's pre-existing.
I think we probably want to just to be
both.
ultra careful.
Yeah, I think we can be pretty.
Also, because the denial mentioned it both sides.
Pardon me?
Also, because the denial versus denial in the application mentioned both sides.
Okay. All right, we can sort of do that. Liz, any questions or comments from your side?
Yeah, my street view isn't working very well. I can't figure out what's going on. But the overhang, is, you want to bring out how many feet are you bringing out the first floor to be flush with the existing second floor?
It's just about 5 feet, I believe. My husband's on the call too, and he can confirm. But I believe it's 5 feet.
Right.
It's 4 feet.
Oh, okay, 4 feet. Right. No, I don't have any questions other than that.
Okay. Is there
And
anyone
just for
in the,
point of clarification, Mr. Chairman, on the detail on the plan, it does say 5 feet. So we should err on the side of caution.
Yep, gotcha. Okay, thank you, Mr. Bush. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to ask any questions of the applicant? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard either in support or objection to this petition? Seeing none, any further questions or comments from the board? Okay.
None from me.
I'll make a motion then that we close the public portion of the grant for a special permit by the applicant Amber Ream for the property located at 1078 Highland Street, Holliston, Mass.
Ms. Mark, I'll second that.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor of closing the hearing at 1078 Helen Street. John, aye.
Jay, aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The hearing will be closed. For Ms. Ream, we hopefully will deliberate and make a judgment, make a hearing on this tonight and get it written up and typed up as quickly as possible. Usually within a week, we're able to do that, at which point the decision would go to the town clerk and you'd be notified. After that, there's a mandatory 20-day appeal period by statute, during which time, if no one objects, either you or anyone else, then you're on your way and move forward. The decision takes effect. So appreciate your thing. We also, you're welcome to stay on. We will hopefully deliberate at the end of this meeting. And you can no longer participate at that point, but you're welcome to stay on or not. Either way, you'll get word where that went.
Could I ask a question? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, I'm new at this. Oh, this
No,
is
that's quite all right.
So one of my questions is that the architectural plans that you should I just plan on sending those after I leave the meeting? That
would be perfect. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, we'll reference them and make them part of the folder so that they're there. If anyone else, when we all get voted out of office and the next group comes in here, they'll know what we were talking about.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, so in terms of your timeline, I just wanted to ask you some questions about that.
Sure.
As of now, we're hoping to move forward with our project with once we have approval from you. We have our contractor has been talking with Chris, the building inspector, about figuring out a way for us to get our project on track as soon as possible. I'm not sure what that means for our timeline. And
well, what we will do is, as I said, issue our decision as quickly as possible, and hopefully that's tonight.
Okay.
Get it written up shortly in the next few days thereafter. There is this 20 days, it's by state law,
right,
appeal period. However, presuming we're going to grant this, which you heard the tone of the voice of the board, so I can't tell you for sure how they're going to vote, but I have pretty good sense. You can start talking to Chris and at least said, I mean, it won't take effect until that appeal period's done, but he could,
right.
I'm sure.
But you said we could hear as early as tonight how you choose to do. Okay, super. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you can start to think in terms of what your new house looks like. But,
Super. Thank you.
okay. Okay. Going back to 799 Washington Street, since we don't seem to have an applicant, I'm going to suggest we continue that. Why don't we continue till we have the meeting in a couple weeks? We're doing the 40B. Do you want to do it or wait till our following meeting?
I think it would be a long night to do it all in that meeting.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a long meeting anyway. I think it's probably likely that we would open it and continue it again. I just, the only thing I thought about, if we did, we could, if there are questions like this traffic engineer, we could push that along. But I think we can probably do that just by communicating with them. So in that case, we'll need to figure out when we next meet. And heck of a job, everybody, on getting things caught up. We had a lot hanging this time a month ago. We had a lot hanging over our heads. We still have some, but I feel a lot better about it than I did then. So we have a meeting. When is it? What is it? 20th? I'm trying to.
Yeah.
You scheduled for the 20th, yes.
In 2 weeks, which is going to be the 40B. So we want to look in June.
June 3rd.
Yeah, I'm turns out I'm going to be around.
Oh, really?
I have a
It's gotten so much easier to schedule. Yeah, if anybody has a preference.
That week is not good for me.
Okay.
There are still some senior events going on. Even though.
Oh yeah, that's that's a tough one. How's your daughter making out with that?
Good. I think that is the senior parade evening.
Really?
Yeah, they're doing like a parade around town and then with each other, and then the next night is graduation.
Oh, the high school seniors.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Oh, that's good.
You want to look at the 10th? Is that?
Yep, that's fine with me.
Yeah. They all run together for me anymore.
Sorry, what was that, the 10th?
Yeah, of June is that?
Make it work.
Yep, I can make it work too.
Okay. Why not? So if somebody could, if we'll schedule that for the 10th, if somebody make a motion to continue the 799 Washington Street till that time.
I had a question.
Sure.
About timing. So when someone puts in an application, does the time start running then or after there's an open hearing? Because in terms of making a decision.
We haven't opened the hearing yet on this one, have we? I guess we have.
Yeah, we did way back when, because for that reason that we have, you know, we have a bit of a time extension anyway with this emergency.
Well, that's true.
We've got, what do we get, 90 days after the emergency is over,
right,
or something like that?
Well,
it seems like it should be told if the applicant doesn't show up to answer questions, right? Then
yeah.
I just don't, I don't know what
You're right. We have, well, we have
is.
the right to just deny it, but due to lack of evidence, but I don't know that that's our.
I would say until we're back into a physical meeting or something that's, I guess, more routine. So by then, by June 10th, I guess we're talking about.
Mhm.
Everybody should be used to this. So if the petitioner doesn't show up, then I would just open it and probably deny it, because clearly their intent would be not to proceed. But I wouldn't want to keep it open too much longer.
Right. We can
Yeah.
certainly do that.
It could be a technology issue why they're not here too. We don't know.
Yeah, that could be a lot of things. So,
Yeah.
well, we'll see if we can get in touch. And
Okay, I'll make a motion then when we continue the application for grant a special permit by William L. Harvey III for the property located at 293, the property located at 799 Washington Street, Holliston, Mass, until our hearing scheduled for June 10th, 2020.
This is
I'll
Mark. I'll second that. I'll third it.
moved and seconded and thirded. So all those in favor? John, aye.
J.I.
Mark?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Okay, we'll continue that. Thanks, guys. That was good. Why don't I suggest that, since it ought to be fairly quick, we do the 1078 Highland Street decision first, and then see what we can do with the solar folks. Just in case we drag on a bit. Any concerns with that special permit request?
I'll retract my comment though about the other side. I looked at Chris's notes again, and he's really relating to the expansion in the Highland Street setbacks. So
Okay.
we don't have to do anything with the other one.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily run, or I couldn't follow the dimensional relief that well. So I don't know if you want to try to. It seemed like you understood it better than I did.
They've got it on here and should be pretty straightforward because it's 30.6 feet. It looks like at the where the deck is closest to
The edge of the new deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we can, which appears to be the more or less western front lot line on Highland Street. Any conditions that it be no closer than, let's say, 30 feet, and that it, materials and architecture be consistent with the existing dwelling, that I don't know what else, that set of plans be, architectural plans be provided to the board, and that it be registered with the court. Anything else that we would need to say?
No.
I don't think so.
Is that a motion?
Nope. I think that covers it.
That was just discussion.
If you'd convert that to a motion, I can second it.
All right, I'll make that motion.
I can second that.
We moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
None from me.
Okay, all those in favor? John, aye.
J.I.
Aye. Mark,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
thank you. Motion carries. Special permit has been granted. I can. Not sure if I want to go to all that work for 5 feet of additional, but it'll probably look better. Okay.
It's pretty narrow when you look at the house plan.
Yeah, that's good for them though. Glad that's what they want. All right, now we have a little more to So our solar friends.
Did I just make a quick
what a cooperative
clarification?
crew. Sorry, Karen?
Did I just make a quick clarification on the draft that I sent you?
Yeah.
So what I was really trying to do was separate the permits. I don't necessarily think that you need to include the conditions that will be put on by the planning board under the land disturbance permit, but I wanted you to understand them. So I think what I was trying to do was sort of bifurcate what I thought the planning board wanted you to condition, which was that first section. And then I simply attached what is most of their land disturbance permit to the back end of it so that you knew what they would be issuing.
Okay, so they will be issuing. We don't really then need to deal with.
So you're talking about, so Karen, when I look at the draft, we're talking about the suggested conditions on the use variance, enumerated 1 through whatever it was, 16.
Yeah, and then there's a divide that separates all the stormwater.
Yep.
Oh, so they'll deal with the pesticide, whatever, that language is on that section.
Well, with regard to that, there is an outstanding issue. So one thing that I did not do in the planning board's recommendation to you was to sort of get around this issue of them offering off-site improvements. Because generally under a land disturbance or site plan review for the planning board, off-site things would sort of be unusual, right? So under this use variance, I think you have more power to sort of control the off-site things that they've offered.
What do you mean off-site, like landscaping stuff?
Yeah, so for those...
Why is that off-site though? Isn't it on, I mean...
No,
it's on some of the butters' properties.
Oh, I see, okay. Oh, they're going onto their properties to do it.
Yeah, and that's where they're doing the planning, or in the Tomasetti's case, the
Oh, I missed that, okay.
irrigation. So there are two parts of that.
Right.
So in addition to what Mr. Tomasetti offered, which was that they've discussed irrigation for him, for the other abutters, they've not only, they've given them an option of sort of a cash payment or the installation of the landscaping. And I don't know how much involvement you want to have in that, but yeah, exactly. That's the look on my face too, John.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I knew they had proposed
So,
it.
I mean, you're not really in a position to be negotiating that. But
How
what
much
you
do
want to
give
do
them?
is say, yeah, the plants need to be warranted, and in the case of the Tomasettis, where they've promised irrigation as well, you need to memorialize that.
Yeah. So
Oh,
at this point, though, don't the plants that or the plantings, the screening and stuff that they've promised actually show on their plans?
They do. Yes, they do.
Yeah. So we can reference the plans. Maybe we can put a condition. Yeah, how do we?
Well, the plans actually call for a 1-year guarantee period. That's pretty standard.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm thinking of the negotiation of cash versus what they've shown them.
The only other thing that the planning board was concerned about, and I should have asked Jason earlier when I spoke to him, was sort of the timing of the plantings. And I think Joe had sent me an email regarding that, because the screening will help them with the construction noise. So to the extent that they can do that up front, it would be great.
Yeah. although it's really only one house that's very close to where there's actually going to be construction. The others have pretty big backyards, but okay. Well, how about, why don't we take a walk down the planning board's conditions and see if we have got any concerns about any of those, and then look at any additional conditions that we would like to place on there. So, construction hours, they'd ask for 7 to, well, he made a change in here of 7 to 5, but then he mentioned 7 to 4 again tonight. I'm not sure which they, and then with the ability to expand it with the building commissioner's inspection, any concerns, issues?
No.
Seemed reasonable.
Yeah.
And they were okay with the limitations on the type of construction and whatnot. Okay, traffic control measures, signage, emergency contacts, keys to gates, NEC compliance, NFPA compliance, first responder training, service road requirements, fire department. 11 is the board access onto the property.
Which board? Us?
I'm sorry?
Who has access to the property? The board.
Oh, yeah, because I presume they meant.
I mean, it seems like,
Yeah,
I don't think they
it would
meant
be
us.
us, but
Yeah.
imagine where the planning board meant themselves.
and I would like to add the building inspector too, to that.
Well, he is our agent, so.
Oh, okay.
But why don't we say that the planning board does ZBA and or its agents may really give us all, I don't think they care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, then there's no ambiguity. Which board are you from?
I'm sorry. I think the way that I usually craft that condition is together with the inspection
Uh-huh.
provisions, and so the inspector becomes the agent of the board.
Yeah. I don't really anticipate going out there too often, but
Take walks.
I saw it once. I'm good.
yeah, right. I'm with you.
Send you
my
all the complaints when the trucks arrive.
My computer conked down when he started talking about number 12 in terms of the lighting. What was his, did he change this?
He asked for the comment about except motion sensor lighting, the equipment pad area,
Oh, okay, okay.
which is a safety thing. So I don't think there's any issue with that.
No, okay.
And the next one, 13, was the business of that they might end up taking a little bit off relative to what the LSP, I'm sorry,
Okay.
recommends, which I don't think the planning board have a real issue with that. 14 was their clarification that they're only doing hazardous waste that they generate, not the stuff that they inherited.
Yeah.
Yeah, and execute interconnection service agreements, blah, blah, blah. Which I presume we've done. For the board's legal counsel, and is that is that the peer review as well? Are we okay with that 3,000, Karen? Do you know?
I'm sorry, I don't have it in
I
front
was going
of
to ask
me.
about that. Should
Oh,
that be
it's number
5?
16. The applicant shall promptly pay the reasonable fee of the board's legal counsel for review of the plans or documents described herein up to a cap of $3,000. That's what they asked for.
I don't think the only review is of the decommissioning provisions.
Okay.
The peer review needs to be scoped separately.
Okay, have they already paid for that or?
I'm assuming that we would partner with, all 3 boards would partner to do an inspector to supplement the conservation agent to review the stormwater stuff as it's constructed.
Okay, so we need to put a condition in for that, right?
Is that a sentence that starts because of the scale and complexity of the project? I don't know what number that ended up being.
Oh, wait a minute, let me see, maybe I don't remember seeing it.
The standard condition that we use on the planning board side of things says, because of the scale and complexity of the project, installation of site access drives and stormwater management features shall be subject to.
That's in
Yeah, that's in your other one. That's in the planning board.
Okay, that's in the planning board's thing. So if they're going to cover it, then we should be okay.
Yep.
Yep. Then we don't need to put a condition. Okay. So is everybody okay with the conditions from the planning board as written there?
I did have a question on the decommissioning. I know that there's a guarantee on the decommissioning, but is that typically bonded for, or how does that usually get secured? Was there some surety or no?
We have, but not.
On the very first project that we did on Chestnut Street, it was Blue Wave Solar, and what they did was they offered us a copy of the lease agreement, which had a built-in decommissioning provision. And then they put a cash bond, which was a certain percentage of the value.
All right. It's because we never really talked about that provision. I'm just,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a huge array.
Yeah, it is.
Because a guarantee by the applicant is only as good as the applicant's a single purpose entity that's just doing this deal. So, I know that we're going to have town council provide us some review of the decommissioning provisions. They might. Oh wait, it says it right here. You already wrote it here with a surety bond. So the way it's drafted is the applicant shall guarantee performance of the condition regarding
Yeah, it's number 14.
the surety bond or other security satisfactory to the board.
Okay.
All right, you know what? The applicant's already seen these conditions and they didn't object to them. So
That's right.
yeah, that's good.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep, they can run it by us and.
I'm sure they built that into
between
their
now and then
pro
try
forma,
and figure out what it costs to get rid of a big solar array.
so. Okay. All right. So they've covered it and they
Yep.
didn't question it. That's good.
Okay. So what other conditions do we need to put on here? Has to be in accordance with the plans provided, and if we can reference the specific latest version of those. Fortunately, they're pretty complete, so that covers a lot of what we need to do.
So, Karen mentioned the offsite stuff.
Yeah.
So, can we manage that with just a condition that the applicant shall utilize its best efforts or shall utilize commercially best efforts to manage the abutter concerns, because we don't even know what all the deals were.
Well, if they're on the plans, can't we just, if they're on the plans, can we?
Yeah, I believe they are. The only problem is if they cut a deal with somebody that said, or instead of doing this row of trees, we'll give you $3,000 and you can plant whatever you want.
How about on the plans or as, approved by abutters or something?
Yeah, but how do you say that?
Just say in accordance with off-site work shall be performed, done, I don't know, in accordance with plans or as agreed to between the parties. I don't know.
Right, the specific landowner or the applicant and specific landowner, I don't know.
I just think
yeah.
if we have like an enforcement provision and then they have a separate, email or some contract, then at least if they don't abide by it, they can come to us and say, hey, guess what? This didn't work out the way we thought it would, and we were a proponent of the project after some debate. At least they have some recourse through us. So I'm okay with an open condition that says something like what Elizabeth just said. And I think it makes sense because otherwise they don't have a hook.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe we can make that part of that same condition that they'll be in accordance with the plan, and then for all
plus any agreements between applicant and abutters or something like that.
Now the only thing is
I think that's it.
We probably have to add a condition for that irrigation work because apparently that's not on the plan yet. That's a more
but that would be the plus any agreed upon work between. Wouldn't we catch it then?
Abutters, yeah. I think you catch all that in that statement, or individual abutters.
Karen, you're smarter than we are with drafting, so you can get this in there.
Great.
Yeah, no, I at least I thought Karen did probably stay away from individual mentions of exactly what deals are cut. I don't want to mention any deal, just in negotiations with the abutters, or agreements with the abutters.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can ask Joe to send an email acknowledging that, and then it's there and it's part of the record, and because it happened in the meeting, he agreed, so I don't see a real issue. Unfortunately, and he and Bill Tomasetti are like this now. They walked around and I was with him. He pointed to the big rock and said, "Oh yeah, I see what you're talking about. I don't see why we couldn't just move the road around here." And boom, they were like best buddies after that. So, okay.
Do you have a concern about when the screening gets done, or leave that to them as well?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say if we did that would be something that the applicant shall make best efforts to provide any screening as early as possible. But I'm a little bit reluctant to be very specific about it because I don't know how it fits into their whole process, and time of year makes it, if they plant at the wrong time, it's going to die anyway. So I don't know how we do that. Maybe I don't know. Anybody have an idea on that?
I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Yeah, I feel funny about mandating a certain time, just like you said. I don't know when the best time to plant a tree is. I have no idea. And especially if they're going to be warranting it, that's warranting's on the plan too, isn't it? Does it say?
I believe so.
Yeah, I believe so. So we don't have
So-
to put it if it's good. We've told them to follow the plans.
I don't know. I feel like it would be nice if it was, done, but I guess I don't have an image in my head. Like, is there, will it interfere with their other work at all or not? Or, I mean, I guess could say something like, yeah, best efforts to, address the landscaping needs as soon as
At the
possible.
earliest
At the earliest.
practical opportunity or something like that. I think if we put something like practicable that gives them some wiggle room, but makes the intent clear. Don't wait till the last day. Okay. What else do we need to do with them?
Do you want to make findings with regard to the variance itself?
Probably, oh yeah, it's at a variance, we probably should. Good thought. All right, let me go back to the original application. It's probably.
If you read the application in support of the grant, it's pretty well stated. In fact, it is, you could almost track them. They did a pretty good job of tracking the statutory requirements.
As if they've done it before. Maybe I won't look at the original. Let's see it.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I thought I had it here with my
Sure.
stack, but I didn't have a whole stack. Oh, it is. I do. I'm sorry.
So in terms of the stated hardship, the petitioner wrote that a use variance is sought for the proposed large-scale solar power generation within the agricultural residential district A zoning district. The development of solar will help retire the existing environmental lien on the property. The proposed project will alleviate the burden of the town that other types of development would create. There will be no additional burden to police, fire, safe, schools, water, and sewer. I think that actually would be better in the no detriment to the public good. That's sort of what they just stated. But I think in terms of the hardship, I think the reality is that the use in the condition of that property doesn't lend itself to much, considering all the environmental hazard related to it. So as far as I'm concerned, I would say the existing condition of the property would create the hardship, and to do it any other way financially, I think would be a huge burden on any commercial development.
I would agree with you.
So I just mentioned that the variance if allowed, will create no substantial detriment to the public good. I think what I just said about no taxing on the utilities or other services within the town, albeit police, fire, schools, water, sewer, I think that actually is favorable and doesn't create substantial detriment to the public good. And then more to that, the solar and the passivity of the use in and of itself, no traffic, no noise, no visual impact or other environmental impact are all good for both the town and obviously the abutters, seeing that they came in favor of the project.
Right.
And then not nullifying or derogating from the intent of the zoning bylaw. So clearly zoning is done for uniformity amongst other things. And I think the fact that there's a very nearby solar array plus the open space, which is our Marshall Street soccer area, are all sort of indicative of this, again, similar passive use of a large portion of open space.
Yeah. Well, the fact that it's allowed.
Well, it's allowed by variance.
Yeah, it's only allowed in CNI, but it is allowed in the town. And this is a very unique property.
So let's think that, so that's substantial derogation of the bylaw, no substantial detriment to the public, and stated hardship. I think we've hit all of the provisions. Karen, is that enough for findings?
I think so.
Okay, we have to meet all of them, so. Anything to add, guys?
Yeah, I think they do. And there's a good description of the project. Make it pretty easy. Okay. We've got findings, we've got conditions. We in agreement? We okay with this one?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
This project has been in front of us since I joined, and that was what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Oh, really?
Oh, the original, the bird one, yeah.
Yeah, well, you've been, John and Mark, a bit longer than me, and you
When I
guys lived
joined,
even longer.
we were under litigation. I wasn't around for for Act 1, but or 2, but we were in litigation, and I was around for the first finding that we lost that had the issue, and then about the 12 extensions we granted since then, or whatever the number is. Okay, well then,
So I would say for the reasons I just stated, I would make a motion that we accept or approve the grant of a use variance by Marshall Street Solar LLC at the property location located at 0 Marshall Street, Holliston, Mass. Based on the findings that I stated and based on the conditions as drafted in Karen's project narrative, plus the items we talked about today.
I'll second that motion.
I'll second.
I was afraid it's going to die for lack of a second.
I'll third it.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. By roll call, John, aye. Jay,
Okay, aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. So thank you. I wish all of our applicants were as pleasant to deal with as these guys. They listen.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they listen to us. They listen to the Concom, the planning board, the neighbors. We're really to see as many people happy. Okay. It would appear we're caught up, except for our Gulf station. For the 40B, Karen, any news from them?
No.
Okay, well, I guess.
So do we have application material and all? I just don't remember. Have we seen applications for that?
It's all posted on the website, and when I'm in the office tomorrow, I'll put together hard copy packages for you.
Unless, guys, do you want to just rely on the link, or do you want packages?
I'm fine with the link. I've got everything pulled up on screens here, so
because I can go without a package
working
if
for
you want
me.
to save. Yeah, if you want to save paper in the trip.
Okay, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine with me. I think we'll get it on screen and save a tree. And we're going to, I think they're going to be presenting. Oh, now what about, we talked last time about getting a council for that, like we did with the last. Do we
Oh, right.
think it's necessary, or I think if that's the case, can we make that request prior to the first?
But didn't we talk about using in the same, so procuring council the exact same way we did for, it was a grant, I
hoping
think.
to.
Yeah. If we can get the same guy, that would be, he knows us even, but
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, I liked him.
I'll try to make that happen tomorrow.
Okay.
okay, if we can have him from the beginning, that would probably be easier, although I imagine he could slip in after and still know more about it.
It made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to have him over our shoulder for the whole
I agree
hearing.
with you. So if we could,
Plus, I think we're going to lose Elizabeth, right, for that.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, I think what I'll probably do is be there for the meeting, and then, I don't know, I think I'll just mute myself and, well, I don't know what to do for that portion. I don't know how to recuse myself. I'll ask town council.
I think you just do it. Yeah, you can just say
Yeah.
when we open the hearing, I hereby recuse myself from the hearing based on a personal relationship, and then you're going to be, then you'll be off it.
Okay, so then, so I can still like watch and stuff. I'm just not going to participate in any way. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
that's what I'll do. And so when you open the hearing, I'll do that.
Mhm.
Okay.
You also have
And
have the Zero Birchwood hearing.
Yep, I have that here.
First,
Right.
I did get some supplemental information this evening in an email from the applicant, so they're working on it and they are trying to talk to abutters, but I'm not sure it'll be as smooth as the Marshall Street Solar.
No, it sounds like, and you had said they realized there's a couple more lots like that, so it's worth fighting.
Right.
Didn't sound like they were quite as concerned initially, but it's grown.
any appeals for the cell tower from last go around?
Not yet, but I did have an abutter request today too. So 2 people have asked for the decision and someone asked for the file tonight. So I'm not sure whether they're mulling it over.
But there was talk on, I was annoyed because there was talk on Facebook after this. Someone wrote, the zoning board of appeals snuck in this 5G tower just during the quarantine, and I was like, come on, we had all these hearings and we had,
It's all posted. There were hearings. Yeah, I know.
it was very
Social media.
frustrating. Just people just got on a bandwagon there, like nobody got
Jesus,
noticed.
how many
And they
hearings did we
posted Karen's information. Email her, email the town planner about this. So, I didn't defend us, but I just was annoyed that it suggested that we were sneaking around.
Sneaking.
That's
My
funny.
God, how many hours did that
Right?
stupid cell
Many.
tower take?
Yeah.
Oh,
And then Aaron, has town council responded to the Pearl Street complaint and filing against us?
Yes, he has. Yeah.
I talked to him and he said that because I said, like, what's the complaint going to look like? Because I was concerned that we were individually named and I thought it was more just the board would be named. And he said that basically he just files a notice of appearance and then relies on the court to, see if they meet their burden to show that the decision was, arbitrary and capricious or whatever.
Did I not forward a copy of? I will forward a copy to you.
oh, okay, thank you.
It's about,
Of his
I
response?
didn't even vote, so I shouldn't have been named. So
That's right.
Oh, you can't get out of it that easily. We're going down together, Mark. No jumping ship.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that one, good luck to them. That was, boy. if I was going to challenge any of our rulings, that wouldn't have been our first. Like, think of easier targets.
All of our decisions are well founded, John.
They are, just some are even more well done than others, or some are easier to find good standing, and that was one of them. Boy, that's one that had we gone the other way, I'd have felt really concerned about, vulnerable, shall we say, to appeal, and not want to have to, with a straight face, try and defend it. But anyway.
All right, so are we done for the night?
I think we are. Thank
right.
you very much.
I'll make a motion. I think we have to adjourn the hearing, don't we?
We do.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the hearing.
Go ahead, Liz.
This is Liz, I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll move immediately to a roll call vote. John says aye.
Say aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Liz?
I
Well, there you have it. We're done. Thank you very
Good
much.
job. See you soon.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank to our
Bye.
friends at
Good night, everyone.
Good night.